Welcome back to the Toy Report. The relentless assault on the Supreme Court by the left continues unabated, and their latest target is none other than Justice Clarence Thomas. The left is attacking him based on his friendship with a wealthy individual who has provided him with occasional travel on a private plane, stays at a luxurious vacation resort, and access to a lavish yacht. Why is this such a big deal? Well, you probably haven't heard of Justice Clarence Thomas, who he is, what he has done for our fellow conservatives in general, and how he has contributed to our fight against anti-gunners in particular. As a prominent figure on the Supreme Court, he has left an indelible mark through his majority opinions in significant cases. Notably, his contribution to the court's interpretation of the First Amendment's freedom of religious speech in Good News Club v. Milford Central School has been widely recognized. In this landmark decision, Justice Clarence Thomas played a pivotal role in establishing the boundaries of religious expression within public schools, reaffirming the fundamental principles enshrined in the Constitution. Another notable opinion authored by Justice Thomas is his stance on the individual right to bear arms, as exemplified in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Inc. v. Bruin. Released on June 23, 2022, the court's 6-3 decision with Justice Thomas at the helm ruled that the state law in question was unconstitutional, as it infringed upon the right to keep and bear arms. This ruling effectively elevated the status of public carry to a constitutional right under the Second Amendment, leaving a lasting impact on the nation's gun control discourse. In his majority opinion, Justice Thomas was joined by Chief Justice John Roberts and Justices Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, forming a solid conservative majority. Emphasizing the equal importance of the right to bear arms, Thomas stated unequivocally, quote, "The constitutional right to bear arms in public for self-defense is not a second-class right subject to an entirely different body of rules than the other Bill of Rights guarantees." This declaration resounded with the notion that individual rights should be afforded equal protection and consideration under the law. Furthermore, Justice Thomas's opinion in Bruin marked a departure from the conventional two-part test often employed to evaluate state gun laws. Instead, he advocated for a more stringent approach, examining whether the proper cause requirement in New York's law aligns with the historical tradition of firearm regulation in the United States. By doing so, Justice Thomas sought to establish a higher standard for assessing the constitutionality of gun control measures, emphasizing the need for a historical perspective and adherence to the original intent behind the Second Amendment. Notably, Justice Thomas also addressed the issue of sensitive places and their inclusion in firearm regulations. While recognizing that certain areas such as courthouses and polling places could be deemed sensitive places, justifying restricted access, he expressed reservations about applying the same designation to urban areas. This nuanced perspective demonstrates his meticulous approach to balancing individual rights with societal interests and the need for pragmatic considerations in shaping gun control laws. In addition to the specific impact of the Bruin decision, Justice Thomas's majority opinion has wider implications for future Second Amendment cases. By rejecting the previous two-step test used by lower courts, he provided a new framework that necessitates a presumption of protection for individual conduct falling within the plain text of the Second Amendment. According to Justice Thomas, the government must then present a compelling justification for any regulation, grounded in the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. Only through this rigorous analysis can a court determine if a regulation infringes upon the unqualified command of the Second Amendment. With his distinctive voice and unwavering commitment to constitutional principles, Justice Clarence Thomas continues to shape the legal landscape through his influential opinions. Whether it is safeguarding the freedom of religious expression or safeguarding the individual's right to bear arms, his jurisprudence leaves a lasting imprint on the Supreme Court and the nation as a whole. As debates surrounding these pivotal issues persist, his intellectual rigor and unwavering dedication to upholding the Constitution remain an essential part of the ongoing discourse on individual rights and the balance of power within our democratic system. Unfortunately, his conservative stand is also the reason why he is being targeted by the libtards. They're attacking him by using his friendship with some rich conservative guy who has afforded him the occasional luxury of private plane travel, stays at opulent vacation resorts, and the privilege of accessing a lavish yacht as ammunition for their attack. This seemingly innocuous revelation has been blown out of proportion, leading to exaggerated claims that the court needs to be thoroughly investigated and that Justice Thomas should either step down voluntarily or face impeachment. However, these demands and allegations expose the true political motives behind these attacks, revealing a concerted effort to undermine and tarnish the integrity of the Supreme Court. The left-leaning website ProPublica spearheaded this controversy with a report. It painstakingly emphasized Justice Thomas's long-standing friendship with Harlan Crow, a prosperous real estate developer hailing from Texas. The report strategically placed emphasis on the luxurious aspects of their relationship, highlighting private jet travel, exclusive retreats in California, and opulent lodging arrangements. The intention was to create a narrative of impropriety and moral misconduct. By employing an abundance of descriptive adjectives and phrases, the report sought to paint an exaggeratedly negative picture, a tactic often utilized by polemicists who lack substantial evidence to support their claims. ProPublica insinuated that Justice Thomas may have violated ethics rules and even quoted selected ethicists to amplify their expressed concerns, further contributing to the sensationalism surrounding the story. However, upon closer examination, it becomes evident that the court's rules at that time, when these interactions occurred, did not mandate the disclosure of gifts involving personal hospitality. This includes the private plane trips that were highlighted in the ProPublica report. Unfortunately, ProPublica failed to provide readers with the necessary context that the U.S. Judicial Conference recently revised its rules to require more extensive disclosure, and these revised rules only came into effect as recently as last month. Consequently, Justice Thomas would not have been under obligation to disclose gifts that posed a conflict of interest in cases brought before the court. It is crucial to note that there is no concrete evidence suggesting that Mr. Crow had any business dealings before the court, and Mr. Crow himself affirms that he had never inquired about pending or lower court cases. The only tenuous connection that ProPublica manages to establish is that Mr. Crow possesses conservative political affiliations, which they try to present as inherently suspicious without substantiating their insinuations. It is worth highlighting the glaring disparity in treatment between conservative and liberal justices on the court. It is highly unlikely that a similar story, questioning the ethics and integrity of a liberal justice, would ever be written or receive comparable attention from the media. This observation underscores the apparent bias and double standards prevalent in the reporting surrounding Justice Thomas. In response to the allegations, Justice Thomas issued a statement wherein he clarified that he sought guidance from colleagues and others in the judiciary during the early stages of his tenure at the court. He was advised that personal hospitality extended by close personal friends, which did not involve any business before the court, was not reportable. Justice Thomas acknowledged that these guidelines have since changed, and he intends to abide by the new guidance moving forward. Nevertheless, the political uproar and efforts to tarnish Justice Thomas and the current court shows no signs of abating. This ongoing campaign against conservative justices gained momentum, particularly following the shift in the court's composition during the Trump administration. With the appointment of justices who adhere to an originalist interpretation of the law and Constitution, Justice Thomas has become a prime target due to his steadfast conservative views. As the longest-serving justice currently on the court after Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Thomas holds significant influence in assigning writing duties for majority opinions, which further amplifies the anger directed towards him. Democratic Representative Ted Lieu took to Twitter, questioning Justice Thomas's integrity and calling for his resignation solely based on appearances, employing a contradictory stance that casts doubts on his sincerity. Capitalizing on the controversy, the liberal press has seized the opportunity to demand sweeping court reform. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse insists on a thorough investigation, asserting that all aspects of this issue require robust scrutiny. Senate Judiciary Chairman Dick Durbin has dutifully saluted upon Mr. Whitehouse's order, pledging that his committee will take action to impose a new enforceable code of conduct specifically tailored for the court. However, this fake concern for ethics and reform masks a larger agenda. It is a thinly veiled attempt to establish an apparatus that politicians can exploit to target justices for even the slightest transgressions, no matter how minor or inadvertent. The allegations of corruption are intended to smear conservative justices and cast doubt on the integrity of the entire court. These accusations may serve as a prelude to demands for recusals, calls for impeachment, or even a court-packing scheme should Democrats secure enough Senate votes to overcome the filibuster. It becomes evident that the ongoing discourse surrounding ethics and integrity is merely a front for advancing a political agenda. Ultimately, these tactics and the fervor behind them are driven by the left's frustration over losing control of the court. Determined to regain influence and power, they are willing to employ any means necessary, regardless of the damage it inflicts on the court's reputation or the erosion of trust in its impartiality. It is a disgusting, politically motivated strategy that disregards genuine concerns about ethics and integrity. Ugh, God bless America. And that's all the time we have for today. If you have anything to say about the left's desperate attempts to discredit Justice Clarence Thomas, sound it off in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, and click on the little bell icon so you're notified of our upcoming videos. Thanks and have a good one.